Welcome everyone to Rejuvelac, an enzyme-rich digestive aid. What is Rejuvelac? Rejuvelac is a fermented grain product that renders a wild bacterial culture. It contains proteins and B-complex vitamins as well as C, E, and K. These beneficial enzymes aid digestion and encourage good bacteria to proliferate, thus boosting immunity against disease. So it boosts your energy and reduces bowel irritability and yeast infections. Why even sprouts in the first place? First of all, sprouts have a high enzyme content. Remember, enzymes are proteins that help speed up chemical reactions in our bodies and are essential for digestion, liver function, muscle growth, and removing toxins. Sprouting also neutralizes digestive inhibitors like phytic acid. Phytic acid prevents the absorption of iron, zinc, and calcium, and may promote mineral deficiencies. Therefore, it's called an anti-nutrient. When we soak and sprout our seeds and nuts and legumes, phytic acid is washed out in the soak water. Sprouts also contain antioxidants and increase the activity of chlorophyll, which helps to detoxify the immune system by boosting oxygen levels in the blood cells. It contains a lot of vitamin C. That high vitamin C content makes it a powerful stimulant for the white blood cells in the body to fight off infections and diseases. And finally, it's high in vitamin A. Enough vitamin A means that we have healthy vision, clear skin, and good, strong bone health. How does it work? Rejuvelac is called a digestive tonic because it contains a concentration of enzymes, minerals, and vitamins, and when you ferment them in water, those enzymes migrate into the water. That's why it's called a digestive tonic. Steps to sprouting. You can use quinoa, millet, buckwheat, rye, oat, or wheat berries to sprout. My favorites are quinoa and buckwheat because they sprout really fast and they're both gluten-free. Depending on what grain you choose, it may need a few hours to soak before you even start sprouting it. So just to be really clear about soaking happens before you even start sprouting your seeds. In order for the sprout enzyme to be activated, enough water has to penetrate the cellular walls of the grain. And when you soak it in water, the water kind of permeates and breaks down the cellulose walls. And then you're ready to move on to the sprouting stage. But as with buckwheat and quinoa, you can skip this stage because the cell walls are very thin. Steps to sprouting. Add a cup of seeds to a sieve or a sprouting tray and run it under a cold water tap to get them nice and wet. If you've pre-soaked your seeds, you don't have to run it through the water as many times as you can see me doing it. Spread the rinsed seeds out around the edge of the sieve to get as much flat surface space as possible. If the seeds are piled up on top of each other, this is an opportunity for mold to develop. So flatten them out and spread them around. And as you can see me doing with my fingers, push through the bottom of the sieve so that you can create air pockets. Air pockets increases airflow and diminishes the proliferation of mold. Storage. Cover the wet seeds in the sieve with a plate and store it in a dark place, like inside a cupboard in the kitchen, under the counter, on a shelf or table with no direct sunlight. Please make sure that air circulation is good and that there is no dust, mold, or other fermenting products or food waste nearby, or the sprouts will develop mold. If you're using a sprouting tray, you can leave it uncovered, but make sure that it's in a place without direct light. If you don't have good air circulation, train a fan to be blowing in the general vicinity of the sprouts, but not directly on the sprouts, or they will dry them out really quickly. Finally, we are ready to start using the sprouts. You'll notice in this clip that I don't have a sieve, but instead I have a sprouting tray. I shot this video a few times, and in the first round I used a sieve, but in the second round I'm using a sprouting tray. But at the end of the day, whether you've used a sieve or a sprouting tray, this step will result in the same outcome. You want to basically empty your sprouts into a large, clean bowl. Now let's get a clean jar ready. Your jar should be large enough to contain about 1,000 cc's of water. Add 1 cup of seeds to the jar. Fill the jar with 1,000 cc's of distilled water. And you want to leave enough space at the top for aerobic fermentation. Aerobic means in the presence of oxygen. So you definitely want oxygen to infiltrate the water as well. And that's also why we cover the top of the jar with a perforated paper or tissue or cheesecloth. Tighten it with 2 elastic bands and really pull through on the seams so that there are no gaps available around the rim, because it is through these little gaps that fruit flies can get in. And if fruit flies get in, they feed off the sugary byproducts of fermentation and also lay their eggs in the water. Where and how? We want to be really careful about where we ferment our Rejuvelac. So please remember that the space you ferment your Rejuvelac in should have good air circulation, no direct light. It should be in a clean jar, meaning you haven't used that jar previously to make kimchi or to make sauerkraut, because those aromas do linger. And we want to have good cover material. We're going to let our jar sit in a dark corner with good air circulation for 48 hours, and then we will distill it. After fermenting our Rejuvelac for 48 hours, you should expect to see a liquid that looks like this. It's slightly, like the color is kind of a light translucent cream. And there are bubbles on the surface and the sides of the jar. The bubbles are a good indication of fermentation. Have a good look at the bubbles on the surface of the liquid so you know exactly what to look out for. Get a clean glass bowl. Place the strainer on top and strain the Rejuvelac through. If you want to do a second fermentation, take the very same sprouts that we just fermented and put them back in the same jar without rinsing it, add fresh water and let that ferment for 24 hours for a double portion of Rejuvelac. now we're going to get an amber bottle ready to pour our first fermented Rejuvelac in. An amber bottle is highly advisable because it does not allow the enzymes to die out through direct contact with sunlight. Always use amber. If you don't have amber, cover your see-through glass with dark paper. Place a funnel in the bottle and pour the Rejuvelac in. You can see the beautiful combination of naturally fermented Rejuvelac as it builds up inside the bottle. You can seal it tight and store it in the refrigerator for up to 5 days, but it really does depend on your climate. A hot, humid climate, maybe 3 days. A cold, dry climate, probably 5 days. And now it's time to enjoy a glass of your beautiful digestive tonic Rejuvelac. Sip it, it tastes like lemony, nutty, and a tiny bit fizzy. It's a very pleasant taste. If at first you don't like it, just drink it until you do. Just a quick recap about the kind of simple equipment that you need for sprouting. You could get on Amazon and get a sprouting tray, or go to your local gardening shop and get a really large, cheap one for probably much cheaper than you could on Amazon. Or you could simply get a sprouting jar. A sprouting jar has perforations in the lid, and you can also find that on Amazon. However, you can use whatever you have at home. Just make sure that you rinse the seeds out a few times a day, no matter what vessel you use, because you want to keep those seeds damp but not wet, and you want to keep them wet enough but not dry. So 2 to 3 times a day of rinsing your seeds in whatever vessel you have will do well. Oh yeah, finally we can also use a cake sieve because it has holes at the bottom and there's lots of air going in and out. So you have a choice of a sprouting tray, a sprouting jar, or a cake sieve. In terms of other equipment for the fermentation process itself, you will need to get a fermentation bottle. Just grab any old large jar you have at home and don't use the lid. You also, if you have a cheesecloth lying around at home, that would be pretty convenient to use. However, do take note that if you use your cheesecloth for making tofu or cheese or nut milk, it will contain residual bacteria from other food products. So if you use it for Rejuvelac, boil it in water for 5 minutes and give it a thorough rinsing before you use it to make Rejuvelac, or use a brand new cheesecloth, or use kitchen paper like you saw me using in this video. You'll also need a funnel and you'll need a fermentation bottle. Any amber bottle will do, and if you don't have an amber bottle, cover your bottle with dark paper. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this workshop with me and for taking control of your health. I hope that in the process of making and consuming Rejuvelac, you're able to quickly notice changes to your digestive health, the frequency at which you go to the bathroom, and how much better your energy feels, and even the simple joy of using your hands to create a food product that is very beneficial to your health. I hope you enjoy that sense of empowerment. I hope you continue with this fermentation process and make it a circular one. Circular means you're constantly sprouting and fermenting without any breaks. This is advisable to do if you're dealing with a particular digestive issue. If you have any questions at all, please contact me through any platforms that you can find me on, and I'll see you in the next workshop. Take care.